Hello, and welcome to the Post Talk Podcast, the podcast where we interview post-production professionals in the film industry. Today, we are interviewing Chancler Haynes, a film editor. Chancler Haynes has worked on commercials, music videos, TV content, as well as web content. Here is Chancler Haynes. Alrighty, here I have Chancler Haynes with me. How are you doing, Chancler?
Good, man. How you?
Doing all right. Thank you so much for taking time to be on here.
Yeah, no problem. No worries.
Awesome, man. For anyone listening, Chancler mostly does a lot of editing work. You say you do a lot of editing work for TV.
Yeah, TV commercials and some music videos.
Nice.
Web content, long form, short form. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, if you don't mind, take me through like your workflow a bit, like a post-production workflow from an editor standpoint.
Well, I mean, traditionally, production will go out and shoot whatever it is they're shooting, with storyboard it, go out and shoot what you need to shoot, and then you bring it to me, and I find the best takes and the best quality and in focus shots, and put it together and send it back to you. And sometimes there's notes that come back from production or whoever the client is, if it's the agency, if it's an artist for a music video, and we just fine tune it and send it to the colorists to do their thing.
Yep.
and and then maybe there's some visual effects involved, and we get it all finalized, and that's about it.
Right. Something I was learning recently was editors won't always work with the raw media. Is that true?
Yeah, there's a lot of different workflows. I mean, there's people who edit in Final Cut or Adobe Premiere who can definitely use the 4K, 8K raw media and edit if their system is that powerful and if they just want to do that.
Right.
And it's cool if that's how they choose to work. I primarily work in Avid Media Composer, which is, the footage is transcoded to Avid files, DNX.
Nice.
And it's it can be high res, but it's also lower file size so that you can manage all the media, and you can put it on smaller drives and share with other editors or assistants and everything. And it's kind of, to me, it feels like a better workflow. And,
definitely.
And then you once you get the edit done and finished it, you send that edit information onto the colorist and onto the VFX house, who then use those 4K master raw files to do the coloring and the visual effects.
And so you said you work in Avid, correct?
Yes.
How long have you been working in Avid?
Well, let's see. I actually learned Avid back in 2004 when I was in film school, and they were teaching that as well as Final Cut and Premiere. So I learned it back then, but I didn't actually touch Avid again until 2010, and I was all in Premiere and in Final Cut. So now consistently, I've been working in Avid for about 10 years. Wow. And I just prefer that for the pure storytelling capabilities,
Right.
It's like, I can take an entire movie full of footage onto a drive, like small as this little shuttle drive here, and edit on a plane, and it's all good,
Right.
That's why I just like the compact style of Avid's files.
Definitely. For anyone who can't see, but he just held up a portable hard drive, basically, right? Yeah. External. Yeah, those are. I try to only use those when backing up footage kind of thing, and a lot of people like to work off nowadays the QNAP.
Is that like the like a Unity system or like a?
Right. It's this. You can insert the different drives on there's an 8-bay, 4-bay, right?
I've seen that a couple of different studios and post houses, and I don't know if we have that at the place I'm working at, because we kind of have a central hub that's kind of on a network. So we can all load footage to there, and then since we're all remote now, we can kind of remote into it if we need to grab some files, but then we all have our own little hard drives that we're working with, at our homes.
How was dealing with COVID and everything during all that?
I mean, it was definitely a shift for us. We definitely all just started working remotely and working from home, but we still have things operating out of the office. Like, we have all the footage being checked into the vault, and we have different times where we will go and work in the office with clients if we need to.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, we just like everyone branched out and just started working from home, took the systems home, and
Mm-hmm.
we've been communicating through Zoom and different things like that to
Right.
our assistants and everything. So we've kind of managed it, but you know, it is you know a little bit of a struggle sometimes. You know, working from home. You know, because you got to
Mm-hmm.
you know deal with everything that's going on at home plus work. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you and me and everyone else listening probably just sighed at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's been a weird transition for I think all of us. Yeah, it's not too bad. I feel like, and it might become a new norm. I think I'm in Houston and people mail me drives all the time. It might be the new thing.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's gonna be like this for a little bit longer.
Hmm.
I mean, you know, there could be a chance we can get things back to normal sooner. You know, with the vaccine coming out and everything. But
Hmm.
I feel like my company, at least, is like gotten past the whole shockwave of it all and kind of like
Hmm.
made this like a new normal to make it operate. And quite frankly, we've been doing pretty good business wise. Like we've
Nice.
kind of been more busier during this craziness than in a
Really?
normal time.
Wow.
Because I mean, we're able to do more work and juggle more work because
Hmm.
we don't always have to do like in client sessions. So we're just like
Hmm.
editing and then maybe a Zoom here and there. So it's like easier to juggle more things. Which I
Hmm.
mean, it's a pain to have to juggle so many things. Everybody wants their own time right away,
Right. Hmm.
and some even get upset if you can't you can't give them the time right away on a drop of a dime. But
Oh yeah.
but I mean, there's more availability for more things to happen with working from home. I think.
My thing about editing, because I'm primarily a colorist, but
Okay.
I also my first love was editing, and I think there's a certain art and a beauty to it where you're putting the story together regardless of what the content is. That's really I think the birth of it. What do you think?
I think so. I enjoy just the whole storytelling aspect of it,
Mhm.
and from the root of it all, it's all just a matter of telling a story, and then the technical pieces come into play, and you figure that out.
Right, right, absolutely. Do you hate revisions as much as the next guy?
Not really. If the
Okay.
revisions are good revisions, what I hate more are bad ideas.
Oh, I gotcha.
Or ideas that on paper sound creative, but in actuality are just jargon. And there's a lot of
Hmm.
that can happen in advertising. But no, I like when if I send in an edit and then someone comes back with a better idea or wants to try something that's an alternative.
Hmm.
I mean, it's so easy to just change it out and try it. It's not even a bad
Right.
thing.
Hmm.
No problems with that. Yeah, I only have problems when it starts making the edit progressively worse
I
as
see.
changes happen.
You've gone so far,
Yeah,
yeah. I totally get what you mean. Yeah, it's always nice to have those clients that care and they really want to. You do like to do commercials, but you also enjoy features as well.
right.
What do you gravitate towards?
Well, I am basically just doing whatever comes to me,
Hmm.
as far as work.
Hmm.
I have a choice of choosing, but as far as the company, we do primarily TV commercials.
Right.
And the movie projects come based on a relationship with directors or the creative client or however that comes through. But movies don't really come through a commercial house that much.
Mm.
So um, I I would love to do more features, more shorts, and
Mm.
sometimes shorts come through the commercial houses sometimes, and we grab those sometimes. But I always look at the commercials and the music videos as little short films or 30-second
Mm.
stories to tell,
Oh
and
yeah,
I
yeah.
have fun with those.
Spots are always fun, I think.
Yeah,
To kind of to explain to the viewers, we what the editors do is you guys do the chopping, right? The
yep,
editor's job gets right down to brass tacks. You guys are cutting, right?
yep,
Once you guys are done cutting, it gets sent to someone to like me, a colorist or a VFX artist, and then we link back to the raws, correct?
exactly.
Right, right, yeah.
Those extra sometimes when we sometimes send you an edit that's not completely locked, we'll give you like extra shots as pickups.
Right.
separate timeline. Like these shots may happen because this edit's not completely done yet, so just color these shots too. You know.
Mm-hmm.
That happens
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah. Out of all the different cameras that you've come across with, Ari, Red, I imagine everything. What do you like the most?
When it comes to cameras, workflow is more the case because if you have a DP that's lighting it good enough, then I'll take any camera. I mean, I shoot
Absolutely.
stuff for fun with my iPhone, and it's good and it's fine, you know. So
Yes. Yeah.
it's
I
like
agree.
I don't think the camera really matters as long as you got a good workflow and a good story to tell.
How like would you say early on in a production do you get brought onto? Is it like very last minute or do they like give you
It's
heads up?
both.
Okay.
It's both. With my company, most of the jobs that they book me on are well in advance, and they have like talks with the agency, and they kind of book me at least 3 or 4 weeks in advance. There's some relationships that I have with directors that'll pretty much just tell me when a job's happening the next week or tomorrow, and
Mm,
you just gotta have to roll with it. But either way, it's fine. You
right.
know, they that's kind of the fun in it, is just juggling and scheduling. Making
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
work.
Do you guys mostly work off Mac or Windows right now? Or
We are on Apple mostly at
okay,
my company.
nice,
Yeah,
nice.
I think. Is there? Yeah, I don't think there's any. I think some of the assistants may have their own personal PCs,
Hmm.
but yeah, the company mostly runs on Apple.
If someone was really young, wanting to become an editor, would you recommend them to build their own PC or go with Apple?
You know, in this day and age, I'd say whatever you can afford to get
Yeah.
started.
Hmm.
Because it really, I started when I first started editing, I learned on tape to tape, and I learned
Mm,
all that. And when I got into nonlinear editing, it was actually on a PC with Adobe Premiere, and it was a
right.
PC that I built, and it was like the super old Premiere that barely ran. Could have just been my computer, but yeah, I started on PC, but I personally like Macs.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
makes it seem so user friendly and everything, and
Very
I use
true.
it for everything, and I'm iPhone and I'm just Apple everything.
It
but
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, but I think if you are more so able to get a PC and build it and make your own system, by
Hmm.
all means. I mean, we're in the age where you can shoot entire features on your iPhone or your Samsung, and then just
Hmm.
cut on your laptop and put it in a film festival. Like
Right.
when I was trying to film stuff on my own, you had to rent cameras, rent studio
Yeah.
space, rent edit places, and just so much money to do creative things that now you can do it all yourself.
Right.
So I'd say get whatever computer you can get and go for it.
I agree. Yeah. I started out on a MacBook Air. That was
You
like
know?
nothing really. It had like 8 gigs of RAM. Yeah. I was just having that conversation with my buddy from high school. He goes to film school right now, and he was like, "It's interesting, isn't it? This new age where people back then they were like, I had to work so hard just to touch a camera, and nowadays we're like, well, did you try Best Buy? Or whatever." Yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting, isn't it?
it is. It is. It's pretty wild, the capabilities. All you need now is talent and a good story to tell,
I agree. I agree.
or just knowing someone.
It's cool. Would you give any like techniques or anything like that to young editors or anything like that?
It's kind of hard to teach technique. I think
Hmm.
you can teach the system,
Right.
and for that, I could recommend programs like lynda.com, which is where I learned a lot of things on Premiere, and
Mhm.
even tried to learn some things in After Effects. But as far as technique, I feel like that's something that you teach yourself or you
Mhm.
pick up,
Right.
because you kind of train to get that kind of thing. Like a martial artist, you can teach them the fundamentals, but if they don't practice them, they don't really develop their technique.
Got to put in the
So
reps.
exactly. So I
Mhm.
feel like I don't know, the best way to learn filmmaking, I think, is to watch films, watch movies, and absorb
Yeah.
them. You know what I mean? I think that's where the best the and maybe older films back in the 90s or 80s and 70s when they
Mhm.
shot on film and they didn't have the technology to help them out, and they just like went
Right.
and did stuff. I think that's where you can really learn like some really good storytelling techniques.
It's interesting, and I might actually kind of to play onto that just to give some maybe advice to our viewers. I had this friend, and one time he did this really interesting thing. He took a movie and he downloaded it as an MOV. I
Okay.
have no idea how he did it,
Uh-huh.
and he dragged it in Premiere or DaVinci, whichever, and he made the cuts where they had made like cuts and in their timeline. And he
Yes.
just stared at it, for a good like 10 minutes and was trying to figure out like, okay, why would they do it like this and like
Uh-huh.
that? So to anyone listening, I recommend maybe trying that out. Maybe that'd
Yeah,
be a good
that's a really
exercise.
good idea.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
And it's funny because even after working with clients and different people who, the cut has to go up a ladder of a lot of different people before it's released. So what they're looking at and making those critiques is not necessarily all of the editor's decisions. The
Right.
editor's decision was like the first cut, and
Mm-hmm.
then it goes up the ladder of the director and the producers and whoever else is in charge. So it'd be
Mm-hmm.
nice to. It's interesting to look at a finished film and break it down and try to decide, why the decisions were made when, a lot of those decisions weren't a solid one person making all those
Mm-hmm.
decisions.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to kind of go back to what we were saying, how the workflow, I imagine workflows have changed so much drastically over the years from now to this non-linear workflow in a way.
Yeah.
In editors where we're talking about editors don't work with the raws and give it the colors and VFX artists. How did it go back then? I don't come from tape and anything like that. I've only just read about it or heard about it. Could you kind of explain that old workflow a bit?
And I wish I could because I don't actually know.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like I didn't back when I was learning how to edit on tape to tape. I never got into the color grading aspect of it because everything that I was doing up until when I moved to California in 2010 was all kind of the do-it-yourself type of thing. Where
Oh,
you're just
wow.
like learning because at that time I was learning it and then editing things and then just putting them on like YouTube. So I
Right.
never really knew much about color grading until I
Huh.
started working on big jobs and
Wow.
commercials and videos. And I actually was learning the whole color process. I actually was learning everything I needed to know about color from being in color sessions with Dave Hussey and watching him work. I'm like,
Nice.
that was my first time really being exposed to like a colorist and what they do.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny. I hear a lot of like people who end up getting into post production. They usually in the beginning of their lives they didn't plan on becoming like an editor, colorist, VFX artist.
Mhm.
How did you kind of get your start into the industry?
Well, honestly, my main start came from a chance connection with a music video director that I was fans with online.
Oh, wow.
And up until then, I went to film school, and after film school, I kind of was just doing my own, you know, filming things and editing things for
Mhm.
fun, putting them on YouTube, and getting odd jobs here and there, whether it be a production assistant or working at Starbucks, just making
Mhm.
money. And it wasn't until I started chatting with this director online
Mhm.
and got a chance to meet him in LA and started working with him. And he kind of steered me down the editorial path. And that kind of just directed me into other areas of work and
Nice.
started building up a reel and got into an edit company and just kind of went from there. So it was all kind of just a chance type of thing to actually get to California.
That is pretty cool, man. Yeah. And you said you went to film school, correct?
Yeah, I went to Full Sail
Hmm.
back in '04, back when it was kind of in its early stages,
Right.
before they had the whole bachelor's degree program. But
Mhm.
they had each month a different lesson on filmmaking. So there was like a directing month, screenwriting month, like a
Mm.
set design. Then there was a whole month for editing, which I really enjoyed. And yeah, they just kind of gave you a crash course on everything in 1 year and then
Hmm.
sent you on your way.
That's the biggest thing I explain to people a lot of time when they tell me or express that they have a love for film or media, and then I ask them, well, what do you want to do? And they go, what do you mean? What do I want to do? And you know,
Yeah.
what drove you to post production specifically versus production?
Well, I think what I like mostly about it is the ability to tell a whole cohesive story and
Mm,
just see all the footage, see everything that's in front of you, and craft it. You know what I mean?
mm,
And I did some time doing production assistant work on set, and it was fun. I loved watching the director work. I love watching just the whole process. But I think storytelling through the emotions and the visuals and the sound all together just kind of like really gravitated towards me. Like I used to, I've always been into filmmaking, and I've always loved and looked up to a lot of different directors. And even when I would shoot things on my own, I would emulate those styles and try things. And I thought at one point, maybe I do want to be a director, as most people in film say, I want to direct. But then I started working with one of the best directors in music videos, in commercials, and in film. And then I saw other directors work, and I just saw, you know what? They're really good at what they do, and I don't know if I want to do what they do. I got to see it up close and see what they actually do in the pre-production, in production, in post, and just saw. I'm like, I thought, yeah, it'd be better I stay in my lane and play a better role as a collaborator and make it work that way, you know. And I felt like that was just a better fit.
Very last question. Would you give any advice to young editors? Yes.
I'd say first pick the path you want to go. If you want to work in features, I think the best thing to do is find an internship or assisting gig somewhere that's like in film or in TV. Because that has a nice upward ladder of going from assistant to editor, or production assistant to assistant to editor. If you like music videos and commercials, then there's plenty of post houses in Santa Monica and in California where they have assistant jobs for freelance, and it's really, really easy to work your way into one of those companies and work your way up that way.
Nice.
And if you kind of like the freelance road, just keep doing what you're doing, because there's so many tools and so much technology available to just get your work seen and make, you know, make yourself a website, got Squarespace. You got so many ways to show what you can do that you just have work come to you. So I think the best advice is to just keep doing what you're doing and learn.
Just keep swimming.
Exactly.
All right. Well, this has been Chancler Haynes. Thank you so much for chatting with me, Chancler.
Absolutely. Thank you.